Hi students, welcome to a new lecture series on the topic approximate analysis for lateral load based on the last unit of structure analysis 2 according to RT quota syllabus. In this lecture we are going to see what is the need of an approximate analysis, what are the different methods of approximate analysis for analyzing frames with lateral loads, and then we will see in detail one of the approximate method for lateral load, which is Portal method. So what is the requirement of analysis? Approximate analysis. Approximate analysis can be useful in checking the result already you got from a computer aided analysis. It is humane that we can make a mistake while doing analysis in softwares. And the second one is that an approximate analysis is required for preliminary time machine before conducting an exact rigorous analysis. Of course, the advantages is going to be this method is going to be faster and easier, and the disadvantages, as the name suggests, the results are going to be only approximate. The approximate methods are particularly useful when the frame is taller than 3 stories. Where does lateral loads comes in a frame? So major contributors of lateral loads in a building frame is the wind and earthquake, and it's so quite certain that the wind and earthquake loads are very critical loads when we are designing a multi-story structures. So the commonly available approximate analysis for analyzing frames with lateral loads are Portal method, cantilever method, and factor method. Today we'll see in detail about Portal method. So the Portal method is basically based on following assumptions. The first important assumption is that the point of contraflexure in all the members lies at the midpoint of the member. This point of contraflexure is nothing but the points where the moments are zero. So these points can be considered to be a hinge where moment is zero. The second one is the most important assumption, that is the horizontal shear taken by each interior column is double that of the each exterior column. This is depicted here in the diagram. You can see that there is a 2-bay portal frame with 2 exterior columns and 1 interior column. It is to be noted that the base shear in the interior column was marked as exterior column was marked as V at both ends, but the interior column is having 2 times V. This can be quite explained by dividing the original frame into 2 bays, which is having 1 bay like this, and the second one continuing with this. In both the bays, the load is actually P only. So here you can see that for the interior column repeats twice, hence in the shear in the interior column is 2 times. So when you are doing analysis using Portal method, the first thing you have to do is you have to mark all the midpoints as point of contraflexure or hinges. These are marked as red dots here, and at hinges you can see that there will be shear forces acting equal and opposite on both sides. Okay, so let's mark all the shear forces on the column. So for the top story we use shear force notation as P, and for bottom story we use shear force notation as Q. Please note that the outermost column is having a shear of P and all the interior columns are having shear of 2P. This is again an outer column, inside is having shear of P. The same thing repeats at the bottom also, bottom story also. The outermost story is having Q and the interior columns are having twice that of Q, 2Q, 2Q. And again for exterior column it is Q. Okay, so now if you take sum of all the horizontal forces above the hinge level for the top story, you can note that P1 is equal to P plus 2P plus 2P plus P, which means that P1 is equal to 6 times P hence you get the value of P, yes, P1 by 6. That is, you get the value of column shear for the top story. So if this is P, this is going to be 2P. And the same thing can be done for the bottom story also, but when you consider the bottom story, when you consider all the forces above the hinge, you have two external forces, which is P1 and P2, and the column shears are Q, 2Q, 2Q and Q. So if you take the algebraic sum of this to be equal to 0, H sigma H equal to 0, and get that Q is equal to P1 plus P2 by 6. Now let's see a problem to explain the portal method. So here we got a frame with 2 stories and 3 bays, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's important to note that the loads are acting only at the joints. It is 120 at the top joint and 180 at the mid joint. Okay, the first thing you have to do is you have to mark all the midpoints as hinges. Okay, so you have to continue marking all the midpoints as hinges or points of contraflexures. Okay, once you have done that, you have to mark all the horizontal shears in each of the midpoints. So you mark all the horizontal shears. It is important that at interior joints you have twice that of the exterior joints. So let's consider the for exterior top column it is P. So for interior columns it is going to be 2P. So once you mark all the midpoints as point of contraflexures and start marking the column shears at each of the interior column and exterior columns. So interior column has P and exterior columns has 2 times P. So if you consider the horizontal forces above the hinge line, you have 120 is equal to P plus 2P plus 2 plus plane P, which means that P is equal to 20 kN. This means that the column shear for outermost top column is 20 and column shear for our interior top column is going to be 2 times 20, which is 40. Same thing we repeat for the bottom story also. So here when we consider all the forces above the hinge line, there are 2 external forces, which is 120 and 180, and this is to be equal to all the sum of all the column shears, which is Q, 2Q, 2Q and Q. So this gives Q is equal to 50, which means that for the exterior bottom columns the column shear is Q, and for interior bottom columns the shear is going to be 2 times 50, which is 100. Now that you have got all the column shear, the next we are going to find the moments. For doing this, finding the moments, both P moment and column moment, we have to take out each of the joints between the hinges and analyze separately. So we already got the P value of P is 20 here. So this 20 can create a moment of 20 into 1.75, which is equal to 35 kN clockwise at A. So this is going to be a column moment of 35 clockwise. It is important to note that at every joint the sum of moments should be equal to 0. So if there is a 35 of clockwise moment, it is important to give a anti-clockwise moment of equal amount to bring the total amount of moment to 0. So we additionally provide a new beam which is 35 anti-clockwise, and this is going to be a beam moment. So beam A, B is having a beam moment of 35 anti-clockwise at A. Now that if you have a beam moment of 35 at here, and as I said, at every point of contraflexure or hinges there should be shears. So now there is an upward force which is actually unknown now, but it is at a distance of 3.5 and moment is 35, which means that the force has to be 35 divided by 3.5, which is actually 10 kN. Okay, so this is how you get the vertical shear in a beam. Okay, if you observe keenly, when you see this entire section, the sum of vertical force also has to be 0, which means that at this point the axial force in the first column is going to be 10 kN downward. This is going to be 10. Now if there is a vertical force at this contraflexure acting upward, on the right hand side it will be 10 kN downward. So this is exactly what is depicted in the second right figure. Okay. So here this 10 kN force comes here. For the joint B at the bottom it is an interior column, hence the shear was 40 kN, and here it is a vertical shear downward of 10 kN. So this will cause a moment of 10 into 3.5, which is 35 anti-clockwise at B. This 40 will create a moment of 40 into 1.75, which is a clockwise moment of 70. Okay, this was unknown, so the net moment at B has to be 0. In order to maintain that, we have to include a clockwise 35 kN moment at B, which is on the beam BC. So we get this new B moment as 35. Okay, what's the tip about the B moment as 35? You can find what is the vertical shear here. It is nothing but 35 kN divided by 1.75, which is equal to 20 kN. Likewise, you can continue analyzing for the entire frame and find out all the column moments and beam moments. So whatever is marked on the column is called as column moments, and whatever is marked on the beam is called beam moments. So let's see in detail here in the full figure. You can see we started from here with this joint A, then we come to joint B, then we can move on to joint C as well. Okay. So joint C, it is 20 down. Joint C, there is a 20 downward, which creates a moment of 20 into 1.75, which is 35 anti-clockwise. Base column shear is 40 to the left at a distance of 1.75, which means that it creates a clockwise moment of 70. The net moment at this point has to be 0. So 70 clockwise and 35 anti-clockwise. The difference is still an additional 35 anti-clockwise is to be provided. So that is provided on the beam C D. So we have a new moment 35 on C, which is anti-clockwise, and once you get the moment, you can find out what is the vertical shear. It is nothing but 35 divided by 2.5, which is equal to 40. Okay. Now it is also important to find out the vertical or axial force on each of the columns. So from here it is clear that if you take this part, you can see that there is a 10 upward force, which means that here there should be 10 downward. Here, if you consider the joint B, 1, 2, 3 hinges are here. So there is a net downward force of 10 and net upward force of 20, which means that there is a net upward force of 20, which means that axial force is going to be again downward, and its value is going to be 10. Now let's consider the joint C. There's a net downward force of 20 downward and a net upward force of 14. Sorry, there is an upward force of 14. So if you add both of those, there is a net downward force of 6. So this has to be counteracted by an upward force of 6. And finally, when you come to this joint D, there is a net downward force of 14. This has to be counteracted by the axial force in column, which is upward 14. Now if you take the sum of all these, 10 downward, 6 upward and 14 upward, you get the result to be equal to 0. This is because there was no vertical load acting on the frame. Okay, now we got all the moments at joints which were marked in beams and columns. These are nothing but beam moments and column moments directly marked on the figure. Okay, and you can use the bending moment convention, which is clockwise moment on the left is positive and anti-clockwise moment on the right is negative positive. Okay, so here when you consider this beam moment 35, it is a anti-clockwise moment on the right side of the joint A, which means that this 35 is a positive bending moment. Here 35 kN is again a clockwise moment, but it's still on the left side of A. So again it means that a clockwise moment on the left is also a positive moment. So both this 35 and this 35 is going to be positive moments. When you consider B, there is a 35 kilonewton moment on the left, which is anti-clockwise, which means that this is negative. This is again positive, and this is again positive. Okay, so now we got all the moments. You can just do marking on the frame. So this is positive, so I have positive on the upside and negative on the downward side. Okay, so I mark all the column moments. I mark positive moments on the right hand side and negative moments on the left hand side of the column. You can draw the diagrams and depict the beam and column moments. So that's it for today's lecture. In the next lecture we will see the other method of approximate analysis, which is cantilever method and factor method.